Today's recipe calls for some rolled oats. I'm going to show you how to make pumpkin oat chocolate chip protein cookies. The name is impossible to say, but the cookies are really easy to make. They're super soft and tasty. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do before we start these healthy cookies is preheat the oven box. Set the temp to 350 Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. We'll let them become hot and bothered while we prep our cookies out. Grab yourself a large holding device. To that, we'll add in 1 cup or 240 grams of pumpkin puree. Ensure you use the puree and not the pumpkin pie filling. Following the orange goo, we need to add in 1 large room temperature egg white. The best way to achieve this tricky task is to crack the egg into a separate container, then simply scoop the yolk out of the egg white. After you've done that, dump the white into the bowl that has the pumpkin in it. You may have to toss the yolk back and forth in your hand to get any extra of the egg white that may be stuck to the yolk. Hang on to the yolk. You can use it for a different recipe or just eat it. Wash your ball catchers really well after playing with the eggie. The next thing we need to add is the flavored liquid known as vanilla extract. We'll be adding 2 tablespoons of this goodness into the bowl. To bring that sweetness to our cookies, we'll add in 4 tablespoons of some keto maple syrup. The keto pancake syrup that I'm using is made by Walden Farms. This stuff is the best option to use for these cookies. It'll bring that delicious flavor without adding any calories to our baked goodies. After adding the syrup, lightly whisk everything into one mixture of stuffs. Now we need to add our dry ingredients to the bowl. First, add in 3 tablespoons of your favorite vanilla protein powder. Next, drop in 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. After the sin, dump in half a teaspoon ground ginger. The last thing we need to add in is optional, but will help build a good flavor profile, and that is 1 teaspoon instant espresso powder. Sift everything in, push through any large clumps that were left behind. Make it hail 1 teaspoon of sea salt. Finally, add in the very last dry spice, also known as half a teaspoon of some freshly ground nutmeg. Vigorously whisk your face off to mix the dry into the wet. Typically, this is not how you would mix these 2 different types of ingredients, but I found this is the best option to ensure the spices are mixed throughout the cookie dough. I tried mixing the spices with the oats the first time I made these. The spices ended up on the bottom of the bowl instead of being mixed all about with the other ingredients. So sometimes you just have to break the rules to achieve the best end result. Mix until you can no longer see any of the dry goods and you do not see any clumps of stuff either. Following all that danged hard work, dump in half a cup or 103 grams of sugar-free dark chocolate chips. It's always best to use dark chocolate compared to milk chocolate. The milky chocolate is nothing but sugar and fat, whereas dark chocolate actually has some health benefits to it. Just look it up on the World Wide Web. It'll tell you that. Anyways, fold those little tasty morsels into the pumpkin mixture with a rubber spat. I found adding them in at this point gives them the best chance of being spread throughout. We need to add in the other main ingredient of these cookies, which is 2.5 cups or 250 grams of some old-fashioned rolled oats. The best way to mix these in is by adding them in 2 sets, then folding them in with a rubber spat. Add about half of the oaties, then give them a good mix up until they've all been covered with the pumpkin mixture. After that's occurred, fold in the last half. I found it's easier to ditch the spat and fold the mess of goods together with your hand. Keep folding/mixing until fully incorporated together. You'll know when you've done a good enough job when you no longer see any of the dried oats anymore. Once the dough is made, I highly recommend test baking a single cookie. This will give you the chance to gauge if you need to make any adjustments, like size of the cookie or bake time, or anything else that you believe needs to be fixed. Snag yourself a half tray, line that bad boy with some parchment paper or a baking silicone mat. Beware, the pumpkin may stain your baking mat, so if you're not interested in that, use parchment paper. Alrighty then, let's portion these treats out. You can make them as big or as small as your little heart desires. Just understand the bake times may vary depending on size. I portion my goods out to be 30 grams or 1.1 ounce each. This makes for a good sized cookie in my humble fat boy opinion. Once portioned, transfer them over to your lined tray. Since these are not like a typical cookie, they will not spread out during the baking process. This means we need to flatten the cookie dough balls out into little delicious pucks of goodness. You'll want to shoot for a thickness that's about 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch, give or take. Do your best to ensure everything is the same thickness on all the cookies. This way we can achieve the best bake on them. To make them more aesthetically pleasing, After they've been flattened out, pull a few chocolate chips out of the cookie dough bowl, add them to the tops of your cookies, lightly push them into the cooks. Once the tray has been lined out, grab that sucker, gently huck that thing into the preheated baking cube. Place the goods on the middle rack for the best baking results. Set a timer to bake these things for 10 minutes or until they become a light golden brown color. Times may vary depending on how hot your little oven runs. Once the buzzer rings, pull those sweet treats out of the heat. Oh boy, so hot and steamy. Allow the cooks to rest and chill on the tray for around a made-up time of 5 to 6 minutes. This will give them the opportunity to completely/fully set up. After the time is up, transfer the goodies over to a wire rack to completely cool all the way down. Once cooled, place them in an airtight container to save them for later. Make a double batch of these cookies and become the protein cookie dealer at your local gym, or just be a normal person and make them for yourself. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our pumpkin oatmeal chocolate chip protein cookies are done, let's give them the old taste-a-roo. So looking at them, they came out super aesthetically pleasing. They have that bright orange color. The dark chocolate also brings a good amount of color as well. They look like they're going to be super soft and just delicious. So let's give it a shot. These things came out super tasty. The first thing that hits your palate is the pumpkin, cinnamon, and the oats. It's kind of reminds me of a pumpkin spice latte because all the flavors play so well together. Then the more you eat the cookie, the maple syrup starts to really shine through and bring that sweetness and that super distinct flavor as well. It plays really well with the pumpkin as well. And in the background, there's that nice faint hint of the ginger and nutmeg to really bring some spice and build a good base. Of course, you get a good taste of vanilla as well. Texture-wise, these things are super soft and chewy, but the best part of this entire cookie is the dark chocolate, in my humble cookie opinion. Overall, these things are pretty dang good for how healthy they are. These cookies are super simple to slap together, and they're very easily customizable as well. Maybe you're a cinnamon freak, so you add a ton more cinnamon, or you get rid of the vanilla protein powder and use a chocolate protein powder, so then they become like a double chocolate pumpkin protein oatmeal cookie, which the name is super long, and I gotta catch my breath because it's super long, which they sound really tasty that way. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. And I have to go refilm another part of a video for the third time, which is super exciting. It's not really. I'm kind of bummed about it. But anyways, I'm going to go figure that out, and we'll see you on the next one. Now that our pumpkin protein chocolate something or another. These things came out super. And it... I made a joke. Milk chocolate chip protein cookies. So many words, not enough time. See, and yeah. Yeah. Cookies. Background faint. My eye itches, then my back itches, and I don't know what to itch first.